This is Life Transformation Radio. Prepare to engage. Seatbelt activated. Download initiated. Your quantum journey of transformation begins in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. Hi, I'm Rob Actis, best-selling author of The Law of Action, voice actor, business mindset coach, the podcast whisperer, and Mr. Action himself. Here at Life Transformation Radio, we are committed to share more about real life, love, the power of positivity, romance, and of course, laughter. We care about helping others find their internal drive and purpose. We celebrate life's challenges and overcoming them. On this show, my guests are amazing people who are forces for good in the world around them and live a life of transformation. My guest today does just that. Today, my friend Gayle Lynn and I discuss how to discover your authentic self. So if you want to understand what it means to feel worthy, whole, and safe in your true knowing of your authenticity so you can show up authentically in all types of relationships, this is the show for you. And when I talk about all types of relationships, we're talking all types of relationships. Just want to give a little trigger warning, a disclaimer. Today, we're talking about sex. So if that offends you, admit you're boring and tune out now. All right. So Gayle Lynn, my friend, she's a relationship coach specializing in non-traditional partnerships. She has a passion to help everyone have the relationship they desire, not that society says or religion says or family says. And she empowers her clients to make educated choices about their relationships. She has no agenda. She just wants people to make their own choices, whether it's being monogamous, open, polyamorous, or swinging, or... Hi, Gayle. Welcome to Life Transformation Radio.
Thank you for that introduction. That was fantastic. It's going to be fun today.
It is. It's so... I was so excited that, one, I'm fascinated by what you do. And there's so many different relationships. So full disclosure, I'm an ordained minister and I have married a lot of different couples that have a lot of different lifestyles. And it's really fascinating to dive in and learn that the people that are having these, I guess, I don't even think alternative lifestyles. I'm just saying their lifestyle. I think that's a fair thing to say, are really happy. And all I know is that when I was laying on my deathbed a couple times in my life and thinking about, I hope I don't die, the only thing that I was worried about is the people in my life. And did I say I loved them enough? Did I spend enough quality time with them? Did I relish in all the happy moments I have? And I think people connecting with people is the most important thing in this world over everything else. And so, I think things are changing, and I'm really thrilled to have you on today. So welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm very happy to be here and to have this discussion, whatever it's going to be. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Absolutely. And, it's interesting because, I grew up in San Diego, and there's a very big polyamorous community in San Diego. There's an open community. There's a swingers community. I was in radio. I was just around a lot of, there's a giant swinger convention back when I was on radio that was in San Diego, and a lot of news coverage. And, I've been around it, and it's fascinating to me that a lot of people have no idea even what polyamory is or what ethical non-monogamy is. And I think it's an incredible conversation because when people discover it, they're like, wow, I didn't even really know that was a thing.
Yeah, there's a lot more out there than we're brought up to be because, from the time we're young, it's always been, the man and the woman, you find it, you go up the relationship escalator. This is the norm. This is what we're expected. The church teaches us that, two people become one. And so there's a lot of belief systems out there from when we're, very young that we're programmed And so a lot of that isn't shown to be a possibility. That there are different ways of relating and different ways of being. And that really it comes down to being with in the partners involved, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, it's up to them to really decide what kind of relationship they desire.
Yeah, it's fascinating because there's a TV show on Netflix that's become the #1 hit show on Netflix, and it's called How to Build a Sex Room. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go check it out. It's amazing because it's not what you think. It's not. And what Netflix did is they put out a casting call for people that were open about talking about their sexuality and their relationships. And then they flipped the script on them. And then what they did was they put them in this environment where this woman who's a very, very high-end interior designer and just, oh my God, I just want to be your friend. She's just so funny and just this really cool, loving lady and very open about her sexuality and other people's sexuality. And she creates these rooms that are not like anything you've ever seen that would be considered a sex room. And in that, there are other relationships. There's a homosexual relationship, 2 guys, and they have a long distance relationship. So she sets up a webcam in this beautiful high rise, and it's just really masculine and takes photos of them. There's a polyamorous couple. There's 7 of them. And she creates this incredible, she called it a cuddle puddle style room and other things. And it's really fascinating to me how things have changed so fast. And I think especially during this pandemic, I think people have either excelled in their relationships and had to become really authentic in who they were because they can't escape. They're with their spouse all the time, or they have decided that what they are doing is not what they want to do, and they're exploring their horizons.
Oh, yes, I would definitely agree. We are definitely in the age of technology and so much information coming at us, like that show and others like it. There's other poly shows on Netflix. And so it's becoming more and more where people are realizing that there's other things out there, that there is a way to be ethically non-monogamous, to have an open relationship and create boundaries. And I call them pillars of agreement between your spouse, where you can go out and you can enjoy yourself in a different way. And, usually that's sexually more often than not. But for some people, it might just be a date or getting to know somebody a little bit more. It's whatever the couples want to choose. It's choosing. That's the important thing.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important that if you're in a relationship, and I admire my friends so much. I have many friends in their own relationships. My very dear friend who I know is listening to this podcast, and she's polyamorous and she's married and she has a boyfriend, and they all live together, and they're the most beautiful group of loving humans I know. I mean, I have tears in my eyes because of the love that they share. And I really want to just acknowledge her publicly, is that speaking of authentic self, so she works in a corporate environment, and they had a big event, like a dinner party, an event, corporate event. Mm-hmm. And she brought her family, her husband and her boyfriend. And I am just humbled by that authenticity of what she did. And the response was like, wow. It was very empowering to other people, and it was very empowering to her. And I was really moved by that. I thought that was really, really incredible that she was that authentic in a corporate environment.
Well, if you think about it, people are crying for authenticity.
Yeah.
They have had so many things be covered up, not true, lied to, you name it. And so people are really, I think, admiring when people are ready to step out and really be vulnerable enough to be authentic. And so kudos to her for actually taking that step to be able to really be who she wanted to be.
Yeah, she's one of my dearest friends. I love her to death. And just to see how she's lived her life and the way that she's so bold, and it's not in your face. She just lives her life, and on Facebook and in person. And it's such a beautiful thing. I'm truly humbled by her, and I know she's listening, and I hope she really gets that. You know, one of the things that I think is interesting is that you know about polyamory and I know about polyamory and the lifestyle and then ethical non-monogamy, but I don't think a lot of people will even know what that is. Can you just kind of give a breakdown of what polyamory is, and then what the lifestyle is, and then what ethical non-monogamy, and then we can have a conversation? Because I honestly don't think that everybody knows what it is.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. I was just thinking the same thing. So we'll start with polyamory because it's easy. You've got poly and amory. So really you got poly means many and amory means love. And so for many people, and everybody can do this. Some people think they can't because it's just a belief system that's been programmed into them. But you can love more than one person at a time. Do you love your children? If you have more than one child, you love them all. You have more than one friend, you love them all. And so you can do the same in a deep, intimate sexual relationship, is be able to create those kind of ways of relating where there is 2, 3, 4 people, 7, 8 people involved. You know, it just depends on really what you want. What kind of pod do you want to build within your poly community? And so from there, you know, so that's polyamory. So that's really, you know, and within polyamory, there's also ways you can design that. You can actually have a very committed, closed polyamory group where you're not just going out and having sex with everybody. You're like actually committed. These are the only people I'm going to be with.
Right.
You know, or it can be an open relationship, right? So an open relationship can apply to anybody who's like in a marriage or a committed relationship where you choose to go ahead and open the relationship and have, you know, venture out, have sex with other people, see other people. But typically it's going to come with less emotional involvement. Where in polyamory, there's more of an emotional attachment and an involvement.
Yeah, I discovered polyamory right after I got divorced. I didn't know it was a thing. And matter of fact, I wrote about cuddle parties in my book, The Law of Action. I was fascinated by that and just the boundaries and how beautiful cuddle parties were. And I didn't realize how the polyamory community had really embraced, either in Arizona, the cuddle party groups. And it was amazing because I know, but it was fascinating to me is that here I am, I was divorced, and there were all these incredible people, incredible women, and I loved the conversations. And it was amazing because here I was cuddling. It's a non-sexual event. However, in a normal, non-monogamous world, some people might be very uncomfortable with it, but I was like what they call a puppy pile. We were all just talking, and I was like, this is really fascinating. I am, you know, laying on this woman's lap. She's caressing my head, and her husband is laying backwards against her, and he's okay with it. And I found it really amazing because it was just really beautiful how they allow people to just love. And it can be a non-sexual event, and it can also be as simple as just being able to flirt with someone at Starbucks and not have a spouse freak out. Like, I have a really interesting thing about me, and I'm one of the few people, there's a certain percentage of the population, I don't get jealous. I don't get jealous. It just doesn't. So it's hard for me to understand how a lot of people get really jealous, and I'm not possessive either. And I just think it's so beautiful how people can connect. And if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, that's just judgy, think about people that have open relationships. And I'll have you jump in a minute and talk more about that. But there's no hidden corners in the relationship. You don't have to hide your phone. Like I used to have to, when I was married, my first marriage, I used to have to hide my phone and I didn't even do anything. I wasn't cheating. I wasn't doing anything. But anytime even a bookkeeper or a client that was a woman that said anything at all, it was always misdrew. Oh, you're sleeping with her. You're having an affair with her. And I'm like, that's and I'm like, no. And so it's really nice in that you don't have any hidden corners in your relationships, and it's very authentic, and there's lots and lots of communication, and it just relieves a whole lot of stress.
Well, that's just it. So what you were talking about, I'm going to point out a couple of different things. So what you were talking about is not having that jealousy in this world. It's called compersion. And so that's where you have this vicarious joy that you can actually see your partner is really enjoying themselves. And it could be a sexual situation or just in life in general, that you can actually be happy that they are enjoying their lives. And isn't that what we want for everybody?
I'm just going to jump in. I got to jump in. It's so crazy. So I have a beautiful wife. She's amazing. She's just has energy that just people just want to be around. And men and women both like to hug her. And I love that people love on my wife. I love that. And they want to be around her. They want to talk to her. And, you know, whether it's a male or female. And I really, I guess that's what it is, compersion, because I do get great pleasure when I see people like really wanting to engage with her. And and cause she likes that. And so I guess that's what it is. But yeah, I don't.
It's a beautiful space to be in. And, you know, when somebody is dealing with a lot of jealousy, because obviously there's a lot of jealousy that can come up, especially in these situations, you know, there's such a fear around it. And who wants to function that way all the time? And so, you know, the jealousy, you know, we have to begin to, because jealousy isn't about the sex. It's about the self.
Not at all. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And so when you can take it into the self, and then you can actually have, I like it. I've heard the term coined before, a relationship for truth, right? So really being able to say, okay, in this moment, I'm feeling this. I'm having jealous feelings come up. And then you can actually communicate about them. The communication right there is going to calm the jealousy down. And then you go a deeper level to find out, okay, what is it that's causing the jealousy? Is it some belief system that I own that person? Because that's, you know, that's kind of what we think, you know, when we get married, we own that person.
Absolutely. Okay. So,
and they're not, they're autonomous beings.
Exactly. Well, that's a couple things. So it's so funny to me because my wife, Tanya, is going on a cruise next week. She's going to be gone for 8 days on a cruise, and I'm not going. I wasn't able to. I have other obligations that I have to take care of for business, and I wasn't able to go. And so now she's going to go by herself. She's going to be a solo cruiser. I don't think she's going to be by herself at all. She's incredibly social, incredibly beautiful, and she's going to have a great time. I mean, she's going to be traveling in beautiful parts of the Caribbean and Mexico, and she's going to have a great time. And she can do whatever she wants to do. And I find it just fascinating how many people in my life or that have told that she's going on a cruise are like, well, why, how are you letting her go on? Why would you let her do that? And I'm like, let her, what? That doesn't,
because it's like this ownership.
Yeah. You know? I don't, that doesn't work within my boundaries of how I operate.
You know, and then there's the other level is there's like this envy that somebody's getting to do something that I'm not getting to do. So that's like kind of another layer of that jealousy sometimes that pops up. And so some people are like, well, how could you, you know, let her go on a cruise? I'd want to go with her, you know? So it's like, you know, it's literally another layer.
It's funny because the spouses that we know, the wives have like, well, if she could go on a cruise, why can't I go on a? And so now now it's created a little bit of a conversation in some of the couples that we know, and that, well, I should be able to go on a cruise, and you shouldn't be able to stop me. You know? And I'm like, you don't allow And I'm thrilled. Like I've helped her pick out I got her the hotel for the night, and I helped her with picking out some of her excursions and her clothes. And it's kind of like an eat, pray, love experience for her, something she really wants to do. And I'm like, you go, girl, like go.
Yeah.
And it's just,
I mean, why would we want to stop our partners from enjoying themselves? But
never.
That's what jealousy does. It literally puts and stops things right in their tracks, where people, are fighting over it and they can't handle it. And then they've got these emotions that come up and they don't know how to process the emotions. And so we get into this like snowball effect of things that can start happening.
It's a terrible emotion. And I know that people that have been jealous, it almost is like this demon inside you, and it makes you think it's destructive. And I know there are ways to work through the jealousy and to not be, and when you come from abundance and not from a fear of loss, and really just honor your partner, that your partner is your partner, and you have that open communication, I think it can be a lot lessened. I know that some people get jealous. I mean, Tanya gets jealous sometimes when I'm up on stage and I get off stage and there's a lot of beautiful women that want to talk to me after I've been on stage, but she's now like, whatever, whatever.
Good.
And so, but I think I have a lot of compassion for people that have jealousy. I'm glad that there are people like you to help them navigate through that, because I'm sure you work with people that aren't even in different types of relationships, but just, I think you could be like the jealousy expert, because that's something that destroys more relationships that I know.
Well, it does, and like I said, there's layers to it. So it's like you might get one peeled back and then another incident happens. And then you got to look at it again. Because like I said, it's actually a relationship for truth. Like, are we going to break this down, or are we just going to exist in it? Because once we can peel back all those layers, and that's where I really guide people to show them what it is that is in that layer, whether it's guilt and shame or whatever it is, so that they can get to the core where the freedom is at. Because that's where freedom is at. That's where we find the conversion. And that's the beautiful space to be in.
Yeah. And life is so stressful anyways that, we have to do the work on ourselves individually to get to the point of not having, as an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. And I was talking to my friend Melinda. As entrepreneurs, our cortisol levels are through the roof. And that's not healthy.
No,
and
it's
so
not.
So I meditate, and I was telling her what I do. I mean, I take off my shoes. Tanya always has me go step out in the grass and connect with Mother Earth and really get chill. But I think a lot of relationships are really struggle based on the insecurity of losing their partner, or the fact that they own their partner and they don't let their partner thrive.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And it's like there's a lot of beliefs, right? Okay, so a little bit about my story. You ready? You want to hear a little bit?
I do.
Here goes. Okay.
All right, here we go. Stand by. Here we go. Okay.
One day, so this is like my hero's journey. Okay. And for any of you that out there that don't understand what a hero's journey is it's Joseph Campbell's work. And it's basically every movie, books you read, it's all follows the same path. Well, our lives follow the same path. This is what happens to everybody. This is the game on earth that we're playing.
And the game I have is ADHD, and I interrupted you a couple of times and jumped in, and I didn't finish. So let's just go over. So we have polyamory. Let's go over so they have a little bit of a roadmap of what's going on. So we talked about polyamory. The next one would be ethical non-monogamy.
Right.
So what's that?
So ethical non-monogamy is just what it sounds like. You're being ethical in your non-monogamy, right? So basically you're creating some kind of open relationship between you where there's agreements and boundaries that are set forth between everybody that's involved. so that when you go out and play that, everybody feels good about it. And there's some people who are just like, don't have boundaries. But, I think it's always good, especially for somebody new, just really having understanding, like even down to safe sexual practices, wearing condoms or not wearing condoms. Like, what are you going to agree to so that you guys still feel safe and strong in your primary relationship? And so that would be, ethical. Ethical is the key, is being honest and open and truthful. If something happens and it went against a boundary, you come back and you tell them. You don't hide it. That's the ethical part, which does create a lot more communication, which is a beautiful thing. And, sometimes for these kinds of relationships, people can get a little bit stuck in communication circles. And so that's another thing that I really work with people is to how to effectively communicate. So you're hearing what everybody's saying, feelings and needs are being expressed appropriately without moralistic judgments. And so it actually becomes a very beautiful thing. Like people who are non-monogamous and function in that way tend to have much better communication than people who are monogamous because a lot more things slide.
Yeah. Okay. And then there's swinging. So we have polyamorous, we have open, non-monogamous, and then the definition of swinging.
So, and all of these kind of opening it up, you can end up doing any of these, right? So swinging is going to be more so when you and your partner are going to go and do maybe some swapping, some full-on swaps, wife, husband, possibly maybe just bringing another person into the bedroom. But you're pretty much doing it together and,
right.
And experiencing that together.
So it sounds like swinging is more of a sexual thing. The open,
yes,
non-monogamous kind of is like the sexual. And so would open, non-monogamous be like a little bit of swinging, a little bit of polyamory, because it's just kind of a mixture of it all. And it seems like the swinging is more of just the sex part.
Yeah, it's pretty much the sex part. People aren't wanting to have a lot of emotional attachments. They just want to explore sexually, have fun, get to know other people. That kind of atmosphere is created. And, sometimes emotions come along with it, but typically it stays out because, it's more the purpose of it.
All right, Gayle, it's time for your hero's journey.
Okay.
We want to peel back the onion.
Because I've done all of those between these. So hero's journey, right? So a hero's journey is when, something comes into your life, upsets the apple cart. You end up having to go out on a journey to start slaying some dragons. And they're usually some kind of dragons within, not the ones that are real, but your own internal dragons. And, once you can get to that point and discover how you've transformed through this process, then you get to bring it back to your community. Okay. So that's what happened to me. My apple cart was upset when my husband came to me and wanted to have sex with somebody else. And I wasn't expecting it. It just kind of came out of the blue.
How long were you married? Married?
We were together had known each other and together for 28 years.
Okay.
And he had never had sex with anybody else. Never. Ever. Okay. So his curiosity was piqued and life in the bedroom wasn't that great because I was in mama bird mode and business mode and taking care of the kiddos and making sure everybody's good, making sure the business is running. And I was exhausted, right? So there's a combination of things that were going on, and he's kind of stressed too, and he deals with stress by having more sex. So you can see we kind of hit this kind of mismatched space in our life. And so, when he came to me, boy, did it rock my world. It hit me. And this is what happens when you start bringing these conversations up. And this is why it's important to really find your authentic self and what you want out of this. Because my self-worth issues went through the roof. Like, I'm not good enough. Why don't you want me anymore? I do this, this, and this for you, and then, it even went down to, I could feel it. It's the safety and security, right? Like my safety and security, my nest might not be here because now you want to go have sex with somebody else. I don't know what that means, right? Because we didn't know what that meant. We had no idea about these other styles of relationships. And so when we were able to actually, take a breath after I went and cried and screamed in the closet, right? you know, um, we took a step back, and then, the communication started. And really, we brought back into our bedroom our intimacy. And we started doing that because we saw where we were kind of off and a little bit mismatched. And so we started out, because this is something that I would always advise taking very slow. Like, it's not something you just, you want to have sex with somebody? Okay, let's go out and do it. You can, but boy, there's some landmines there if you do. Okay, so just be aware. So anyway,
so what I love about this is that you weren't even in a, I don't want to say alternate. I'm going to say, non-traditional lifestyle. I just want to say non-traditional. That's a good way to say it. But I love it. The fact, just by you breaching the conversation or broaching the conversation, it opened the door to massive communication. It actually had you go inwards, and
yep.
What a beautiful thing.
It was absolutely a beautiful thing. And
okay, I'm going to shut up. I want to hear more. Okay, go ahead. I think this is fascinating. Wow. Okay. So another thing is, and I want to acknowledge your husband also, because I think in a monogamous relationship, and this is kudos to you for your relationship, the strength of your relationship, is that he trusted you so much. Instead of him just doing the typical thing that a lot of people would do, male and female, is go out and cheat, which I do not condone in any way, shape, or form. I've been cheated on. It hurts. It's not the sex. And the thing about cheating, as I get in my soapbox real quick, is it could take years, if not decades, the effects of cheating. It is a terrible, terrible thing for someone to have to experience cheating. And it's wrong.
It is. And it's an experience. Okay. We're here for experiences. Exactly. And so sometimes these things happen. But that's why I am out here and I'm on podcasts, because I really believe that, let's have these open, honest communication rather than trying to hide what are natural feelings. I think
it's great. I think it's great. So I'm going to shut up and then you tell me more. So he came to you and you cried and you hit the pillow, and then you got inwards, had really in-depth conversations, which strengthened your relationship, which is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And then we started to get into things like doing orgasmic meditation, just spicing up the bedroom with some role play, the good old whipped cream and berries came out, all the kind of, the things that you can do to amp up just the intimacy between us. And that desire was still there for him. So he had to voice it to me again, because I think there was a little bit of piece of me as if I could just be good enough in the bedroom, maybe he won't want to have sex with somebody else, and like that was the old me. I know better now, but so we had to look at that again. And so when we did, we actually decided we even took our rings off and we said, okay, let's figure this out. We're going to move into a different direction. And so what we did is we actually did some sacred sexuality. And so within that, it was like a 4-day workshop. And
no, sacred sexuality, that's Tantra.
Well, this one was Kwadoshka. So it was similar. It's going to have the same aspects, a lot of the same aspects. For sure.
I want to make sure that everybody's following along, because you think everybody knows and a lot of people don't.
Well, and Tantra can mean so many different things too. So, but this was dealing with, definitely that sacred part of sexuality. And what was neat is it gave us this great playground to be in where we could choose to be with other partners and do these different exercises with our clothes off. We're not having sex, mind you. Okay. People don't freak out. but we're having these
Oh,
intimate.
they're already freaking out. They're already freaking out.
We're having these intimate exercises, and I can see him across the room and he can see me across the room. So we're like talking, okay, we just put ourselves in a pressure cooker because now we're actually seeing each other. So it's not like we decided to do this, you go on your date, you go on your date, and we can't see each other like we could see each other, which was powerful and really allowed us to get even deeper, because through this workshop, there's a lot of self-development, a lot of, even teaching about sexual topics that our parents never talked to. I mean, like, it was the best sex education I'd ever had in my life. So
That's awesome.
And by the time we were done with those 4 days, we looked at each other and we kind of had a ceremony between us and gave each other permission to see other people and just realized we really are autonomous beings. And so then the journey began. Lots of communication circles, mind you. And that's where, sometimes it got messy and we figured it out and we navigated it. And, that's why I do what I do today, is because I went through the process. I navigated it all. I navigated what is it like to be steeped in religion and have those beliefs and then, move in this direction. What is it like to, feel happy that your partner is actually happy with somebody else? What does that feel like? So all this stuff starts coming up, but sometimes it also comes up in jealousy or like they're starting to get close to somebody or, and so you have moments and stuff. And so that's why I do what I do today, is because I understand it. I've been there. I lived it. I still operate that way in non-monogamy. And I love to walk people through it and help them, because I want everybody to really have their most joyous life. And relationships are one of the most pivotal ways we get to know ourselves, because we're mirrors for each other. And when we can do that and really look at it from that point of view, rather than just, oh, we got married, we own me, you got to take care of me for the rest of the life, and this is the way it needs to be. No, it's really a tool for understanding and knowing thyself.
It's interesting the stigma that an open marriage has with people. A couple weeks ago, Tanya and I were with another couple, and they've admitted to us individually. I hope they're not listening, because they might be. I don't know. Oh, crap. I didn't think about that. But they both admitted, I'm not saying a name, but they both admitted that they're each having affairs, which was fascinating to us. So they both admitted. And here's the most interesting part of this conversation. So they don't know, apparently they don't realize that we're husband and wife and we share everything, because we don't have really secrets between each other. So I know and she knows, and we don't acknowledge it in there. So the conversation went like this. They discovered that some friends of ours are an open marriage, and they went to this resort in Mexico or whatever, and it was a lifestyle resort. And they had made the decision that they were going to open their marriage. They were solid. They were going to open their marriage. And I found it fascinating. These people, the husband and the wife, our friends that are both having affairs, were so judgmental of the fact that they had opened their marriage and the things that they were saying. That is so wrong.
Oh,
that is a special. And we're sitting there looking at them, and they are both having affairs.
Yeah, they're projecting. They want it.
Is that? Oh,
yeah, they're just projecting what they want through their judgment onto somebody else.
Yeah, and I said, well, I think it's much better and more authentic and more ethical to have an open marriage than it is to cheat. And they both said in synchronicity, well, I would never cheat. And like at the same time, they're going to know. oh my, they may, well, you know
No,
what?
but
Maybe that's a pivotal moment, but we laughed. We thought it was hilarious.
This is just sharing experiences and stories, right? We don't need to know who
Yeah.
they are, but these stories
Oh,
are
I'm not
so
going to say.
important
Right.
for everybody to hear because it allows us now to make new decisions and make new choices. Like, oh, I don't want to live that way. Like you said, like in the very beginning, that whole, texting thing on the phone, like
Right.
that one will drive a person crazy. If you're always paranoid that your spouse is texting somebody else, you'll lose your shit. Oh, I don't know if I can swear on you.
Oh, you can say it. Well, we've already talked about stuff, but it's funny, is that the texting part, like Tanya can look at my phone anytime. She can see anything she wants. I have nothing to hide. And she knows it. And she's made it very clear. I can look at her phone. She's never looked at my phone. I don't look at her phone. I don't need to look at her phone. I just don't.
Yeah. Because you can trust her.
I do trust her. And it makes for a really solid relationship. But I wanted to share that part about the fact how judgmental. And I know, and I think it's fun to me, this conversation is that this conversation will trigger some of my listeners, of the listeners of the show. I know it will.
Well,
and I hope it triggers them in a way that they will reflect deep in themselves and see how they're living their life. And if maybe they want to live their life a little different. And look, people that are in monogamous relationships are monogamous and they're good. And people that are in non-monogamous and they're good. And people that are in poly are good. And just because someone else is doing something, you don't need to discount or project or think poorly of them. They are living their extraordinary life and it's their life and they're living the life that they want to live.
Yep. I agree. On triggers, I always say, never waste a trigger. It's there for you to help you if you just allow it to. So, yeah, never waste a trigger.
All right. So let's just dive into that a little bit real quick. So someone's triggered and they're going to listen to this show and let's just do this. The couple that I was talking about, they're both having affairs, which that's another story. It very much upsets me. One, that they're hypocritical for one. And two, I didn't think that they were, I was kind of shocked at the way that is. So if they're both having affairs, apparently they would like to expand their marriage. How would one go about that with a conversation with you? And I would imagine their marriage has to be really strong in order to do that because it could be just on the way out. You don't just want to flip the switch.
Well, yeah. I mean, opening up your relationship to try and fix a marriage isn't always recommended. There's certain things, it has to be both people need to really be on board for it to happen. And so when, somebody comes to me, we're going to get down to authentically, what do both of you want? Or if it's just one person that's coming to me, really peeling back those layers of, well, what do you want? Do you want to do this? Or do you not want to do this? How do you want to live your life? What feels good to you and the way you want to be in this world? Because you have to find you first. Then you can choose from there what you really feel. Because you have to peel back those belief systems that are piled on us from the beginning, from young childhood, to really decide, what do you want to believe? Because, like you said, monogamy is a sacred path. Polyamory is a sacred path. It's as long as you're choosing it and you're giving it your all. Don't be part way in, because if you're part way in, it's not going to go anywhere. So if you're going to be monogamous, be full in. It's a beautiful path. There is nothing wrong with it. But if you're going to open your relationship, then be full in. Communicate with each other. And when I say never waste a trigger, that means that you have to really be aware when something triggers you to stop for a moment and figure out why it's triggering you. Not just, it triggered me, so I'm going to be mad and yell at everybody, but like, okay, why is this? Is it a belief system? Is it Do I need to change the way I'm thinking about something? There's so many things that you can start going through, but you become the observer, right? You take back and you become the observer of what's going on in that moment and in your life, so that then you can transmute that into something beautiful rather than just a space of fear and anger.
Well, I think you're a beautiful person. I'm glad you're in my life. I love that you're my friend. And I really am thrilled that you took time out to be on the show today, Gayle. That was fun. And I'm like, wow, we covered a lot of stuff, and I learned a lot, and I know the listeners learned a lot today. So thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, how does one reach you? Because I'm sure we might have triggered a few people, and a few people like, hey, we need to have a conversation. Honey, we need to have a conversation.
So you can find me. I have a website, relationshipsevolving.com. So you can find me on there. I'm also on Facebook, Relationships Evolving with Gayle Lynn. I do have, I started a women's group that's called Relationships Evolving, but it's for women. It's women supporting women. So on any kind of relationship topic, and you can reach me at 480-559-9833. Or you can email me at Gayle, Gayle, at relationshipsevolving.com.
I have never had anybody give out a phone number. That's amazing. I've done over 550 shows. I've never had a phone number get out. That's awesome. I love it. Okay. Thanks for being here today. And thank you so much for your support and taking the time out of your busy and precious day to listen. So appreciate it. Thank you for allowing me, along with my very special guest, Gayle Lynn, to touch your heart, move your soul, inspire you to live a life of authenticity and transformation. I'm Rob Actis. Until next time.
This is Life Transformation Radio. Download complete.